welcome to the Giving Voice podcast.
It's me, Nathalie, and Issy, my amazing co-host, and we're sad to say this is our last episode hosting the podcast this year.
Or if you're a bit sick of listening to us, then maybe it's good news.
We've saved the best till last today, as today's episode is all about developmental language disorder, or DLD, in adults.
Today we talk to UCL Simone Ojei about the Adult DLD Assessment Service, which is run by the UCL Communication Clinic. And we're also talking to Shelbi, who was diagnosed with DLD as an adult, to better understand the lived experience.
Student speech and language therapists learn a lot about DLD in the paediatric setting, but we hope this episode will shed some light on how DLD also affects adults and what support is available.
Let's get started.
Hi Simone, welcome to the Giving Voice podcast. It's so lovely to have you here with us today.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
We think probably for our first question, the most important one is, would you be able to tell us what developmental language disorder is?
Okay, so developmental language disorder is a lifelong neurodevelopmental condition. We know from research that it affects between 6 and 8% of the population. So you might often hear people say sort of 2 in every classroom. Is like one way of sort of getting an idea of the numbers of children who have DLD. So a person can receive a diagnosis of DLD if they have persistent difficulties, so since childhood, that affect their receptive and expressive language. And that those difficulties cannot be explained by any other condition. So it can't be explained by something like autism or hearing loss or another sort of biomedical condition. And to get the diagnosis, they also those difficulties need to have a significant functional impact on their lives.
Amazing, thank you.
And so we know that you're part of the Adult DLD Assessment Service at UCL. So could you tell us a little bit about that service?
Sure. Okay. So historically, the UCL Communication Clinic has always seen adults who have acquired communication difficulties or differences. And when the clinic went through a relaunch, myself and a couple of other members of the teaching team who work within the developmental area thought this would be a great opportunity to pilot a service for adults with potential DLD. So we know that there's growing evidence from adults with lived experience on the impact of DLD in their lives. And we also know from them that there is very limited service available, so limited opportunity for them to seek a diagnosis as adults for DLD. There are sort of a number of services around that assess for other neurodevelopmental conditions like autism or ADHD, but very limited service available for adults who might have DLD.
And so how are people referred to the service? Do they can they refer themselves for an assessment, or just like online? And is it anyone from anywhere in the country?
Yeah, interesting question. So the first question, they can refer themselves, and the majority of our referrals are self-referrals. So they can just go to our website and they can download the referral form and complete that. But we also accept referrals from others. So referrals can come from family members, or referrals can come from other professionals that they've come into contact with who have come across the service. So it's quite an open referral system. And they need to just complete basic information about themselves. But one of the key things is what brought them to the clinic, so why they want to be referred. So they need to include information about the kind of challenges they are experiencing, so we can see that this is the appropriate service to assess them. In terms of whether it can come from all over the country, at the moment we are only offering face-to-face assessments. So we'd like to be able to offer online assessments in the future, but currently we only offer face-to-face. So as long as those people can travel to our clinic, we will accept the referral. So there have been some people who have sort of contacted us but haven't been able to travel to the clinic. So that's been one of the reasons why we haven't been able to see those particular people. But yeah, other than that, we're sort of open referral
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how big is the team then that works?
So there are 3 of us that work in the clinic. So there's obviously myself. So I am a lecturer on the speech and language therapy program, but I'm also a practicing speech and language therapist. I've been working with children and young people for over 20 years now. So I've worked with quite a lot of children and young people with DLD. And then also on the team is another lecturer in the speech and language therapy program called Anna Sauerbutz. So she's also a practicing speech and language therapist, and she specialises in DLD. And she's also one of the authors of the DLD and Me resource book. So we've, from the start, we worked alongside each other. And then the third member of our team is Courtney Norbury. So Courtney is a qualified speech and language therapist, and she's a professor of developmental language and communication disorders. And she currently holds the position of Vice Dean of Research for the faculty. And we've been sort of working as a team to initially sort of develop our assessment protocol, and then also to deliver the service and deliver those assessments directly to our clients.
Yeah, that sounds great. And so what is the assessment protocol? What's the procedure?
Okay, so we have put together a battery of assessments. And one of the challenges with assessing this client group, so adults with DLD, is that there isn't a gold standard assessment that we can use, like formal assessment that we can use, that is standardized on the adult population. So there are a lot of assessments that assess developmental language in children and are standardized up until the age of about 21. But beyond that, there isn't really anything that we could use. So we are using an assessment called the KELF, which some of the speech and language therapists among you will be familiar with. And we use some subtests of that to get what we call a core language score. So the tests within it assess expressive language, being able to speak in sentences and use words, as well as receptive language, so being able to understand sentences, understand words, understand paragraphs. So although that test is standardized up to age 21, it still can give us, we use it as a guide, and it still can give us a good idea of whether or not a person is struggling with language and has challenges there. So if they are an adult and they're not able to score within the typical range for the older age group that the test was standardized on, then we know that means that they have quite significant language difficulties. Another test that we use is one called the Towery, which is a reading assessment. So the person has to read a list of sight words, and we use that to look at their accuracy and their reading speed. And then we also use another assessment that involves reading called the York Adult Assessment Battery. And that has a number of subtests, but the subtests that we use are the one on reading comprehension, so where they have to read a paragraph and answer questions on it. And then there's a written précis, it's called, which is a written summary of the paragraph that they've read. So those are currently all the assessments that we work through. And then in addition to those assessments, we take a case history from the client. So that would involve talking about early development, or their experience of early development, or what their parents have told them about their early development, so with adults, as well as asking them about any family history, their education experience, how their education history, and how the kind of progress they've made, any challenges they experienced, and then what they're experiencing currently. So what any communication strengths that they feel they have at the moment, and the concerns, the difficulties that they're facing. So I think that, yeah, that covers everything that we do, and it's quite a full morning of assessment. So it tends to take between 2 and 3 hours with each person.
Yeah, that sounds like a really comprehensive assessment.
Yeah.
Oh wow, as well, 2 to 3 hours per person, like you said, very comprehensive.
Yeah, it is quite a lot, and I think we're aware that a lot of people it's something they've been thinking about for a long time and haven't had answers for. So for a lot of them, it's something that they've almost been waiting quite a long time, waiting their whole lives for, to sort of find out more information about what is going on for them or what they've been experiencing since childhood that they haven't really had answers for. Yeah. So everyone that comes is really keen to sort of do the assessment, participate, and just get that information and get more insight really into what's happening for them.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting as well how you've combined the sort of adult with the sort of paediatric population assessments. So yeah, really, really interesting. I think what you said actually leads on really well to our next question. So obviously the ADAS does the assessment and diagnosis of DLD. So we wanted to know more about what the care pathway would look like for these individuals with DLD once they visited the clinic. We saw an article by the RCSLT that actually mentioned there's currently no NHS services for adults with DLD.
Yeah, so yeah, it's very, very limited at the moment. And I recall when I worked in schools and worked with those sort of older young people, there wasn't, for this group of young people with DLD, there wasn't anywhere to refer them on to for continued support, which was, a real challenge, a real difficulty. So there was that, real need to have that communication with wherever they're going on to next, so whether it be college or a work setting, or whether it's giving that information to them and their families to support them going forward and share it with anybody who might be relevant for and important for, and that is one of our limitations, is that it is an assessment only service, so we can't we don't have an option for ongoing therapy. We don't have that capacity in our service at the moment, but what we do want to do, and what we are doing, is writing a comprehensive report at the end of that assessment, and in that, as well as outlining their profile of needs, we have put in there advice and recommendations, so things like strategies that they could use to support themselves, and trying to tailor that to areas that are specifically difficult for them, and complement the strategies that they have come with, because a lot of them, the adults that we speak to, obviously they've been experiencing this for a lifetime, and they have come up with different strategies that they've used, sometimes successful, sometimes not successful. So sort of listening to them in that conversation and being able to validate the things that they are doing that we think are helpful, that they should sort of continue to do to help sort of advocate for the support themselves and advocate for their needs and accommodations, but also try and offer them alternatives. So it's always interesting having that conversation and sort of suggesting something that they might not have thought of, and they're seeing their response, like a positive response, saying, I hadn't thought of that, I'm going to give that a try. So it could be something as simple as if somebody's in a workplace and they have their email signature, putting in their email signature, I have DLD, this means that I might need something to be explained in a different way, or I might take a bit more time to reply to emails, and really giving people sort of the confidence and the language, the words, to be able to explain to others what DLD is and how they can be supported.
Amazing. Yeah, as you said, that being able to advocate for yourself is such a big tool already, and the fact that you can already provide that through the assessment service, that advice at the end, must be so valuable.
Yeah, I think it's really reassuring, because I think it would be great to sort of be able to, in the future, do a bit more and support people a bit further and see what the impact of that is. But that immediate kind of response, like positive response that we get from clients about how having that new insight and some new strategies, how they feel like that could be helpful, is just really rewarding, really reassuring as well.
Yeah. And that also really links to our next question, which was linked to the same article that Nathalie mentioned. And in that, some adults with DLD mentioned that they found it life-changing after receiving their diagnosis, and that it was really helpful in understanding the difficulties they'd experienced. And so what positive impact do you think the ADAS has had?
So I think so we're in our first year, so we don't have any like long-term data of impact yet, but that is something that would be great to collect and look into in the future, and sort of reach back out to those clients and see what the impact has been for them, how they have felt about it, because at the point that we see them, it's all very new information. They're very much digesting it still, and haven't had a chance to kind of try strategies, for example, and feedback to us about how things have gone, even though they feel positive about, happy that they've had that assessment and that opportunity to discuss these things. But we hope that having the assessment and the report can really sort of support them going forward. Like I said, I think another thing that it will help, hopefully, will be to generally increase awareness. So it's a conversation that we always have, is that people don't know what DLD is. So the people around the clients that come to us haven't heard of DLD and not familiar with it. Their employers might not have heard of it or not familiar with it. So being able to provide the adults that come to us with a report with information that they can pass on and share with their employers can hopefully then increase that awareness, so people are becoming more aware of the condition and looking more at how they can accommodate for people who have communication differences. And I think, as well as trying to increase awareness in the general population, I think in starting the clinic up and sharing information about it has also increased awareness across the profession as well. So sort of more conversations are happening within the profession about this client group, about adults with DLD. We've had sort of campaigns in the past that have been around sort of raising awareness of DLD, but a lot of information out there is aimed at children and parents of children. So we really wanted to, happy to be able to kind of raise awareness about the adults that have those conditions. So those who might have received a diagnosis in childhood, as well as those who are receiving this sort of later diagnosis in adulthood. And we really want to see and add to the resources that are available out there for these people.
Thank you so much, Simone. It's been so interesting listening to you, and it sounds like such an exciting new service, and I'm so excited to hear about it in the next few years once it's been running for a bit longer and you've got that all that data that you would have collected as well. So interesting. Thank you.
No, thank you for inviting me. So it's great to talk about it and to share that passion, really.
Hi Shelbi, welcome to the Giving Voice podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Please, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to getting your DLD diagnosis?
So my name is Shelbi, and I'm an adult with developmental language disorder and dyslexia. So when I was a child, I had difficulties with my speech and language. I couldn't speak. I would point to things, mumble, and stomp my feet when people didn't understand me. I did have speech therapy in primary school. Then towards the end of secondary school, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And then when I went to uni, it wasn't until then that I got full support with my dyslexia, and they did have a little saying possible underlying language difficulty, but then that wasn't explored. And then obviously once I got into my job, and when I was 25, I got the diagnosis of having DLD. So it was very late diagnosed. So it wasn't a surprise, because I always felt there was something wrong or different about me. I just didn't know what. But the challenge with getting the diagnosis was difficult as an adult, because when I did my degree at uni, they said, when I rang the doctors, they said, why can't you teach yourself? Because I was doing the speech and language foundation degree at that time. So I was like, okay, that's great. I can't really go from there. It was difficult. So when I was 25 and I was trying to find how to like go about it, obviously I had to go through the private speech and language route, because obviously with the children, they do children, and then with that adult service there wasn't anything for getting diagnosed with it, so I went down the private route of getting diagnosed.
Oh wow, it's crazy to think that you had speech and language therapy as a child and you slipped through the net really to miss the diagnosis both when you were really younger and then when you first went to uni. It wasn't until you were 25. That was a challenge in itself really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you remember what the speech and language therapist said to you, or what the report would say when you had the speech and language therapy when you were a child?
I can't remember what it said for word, but the sheet that they said was behind on expressive language, naming things, words, and stuff like that. So when I read it, I was like, that was DLD.
Yeah.
So
oh wow,
that was really to see that.
So crazy to think, like, if you had been then diagnosed with DLD at that point, that you'd got that report that said all those things, like how would that have then impacted you through school and through university? That could have been huge, the support you could have been given.
Yeah, like life changing in the way, because obviously I did struggle through school. I had a lot of support, and then when I went in secondary school, I had they did give me some support, but we also done like my mum paid for private tutoring and everything like that, but they still wasn't explaining it in the way, or they didn't see it, especially with that DLD and the dyslexic side as well.
Yes, yeah.
Link.
Yeah, I suppose the dyslexia just took a forefront, didn't it, really, because people probably understood dyslexia much more as a diagnosis than developmental language disorder.
Especially when I'm passionate about stuff, I can't, or very emotional, all the words just couldn't come out. And people probably just saw it as it's just a speech thing that I'll get over, but I never really got over it because I still struggle with that now. I have to sort of prepare what I say in my head before I can get it out.
Yeah. And so what was the support like once you had then got your diagnosis?
That is a good question. After the DLD, I don't think anything really changed in support wise, because there wasn't any support. But I did find Rachel, the speech and language therapist, she had a adult DLD group that we sort of attended as well and sort of connected, and she's recently made a group on Facebook as well for adults to connect with each other. That's the support. Then I would say obviously I get support from Raddle, Aphasic, the DLD project, and then like support with everyone in the DLD community, which is so nice to actually feel part of a community now, when you just feel like I'm on my own, like what's happening, well I'm a bit lost sort of thing. But I wouldn't say there's like, I don't know what the support is for adults, or I know it'd be different from children, but I don't know what there's sort of that, I would say there's that gap. So here's your diagnosis, go on with your life sort of thing. I don't know what it is. I could be wrong, or if there is support. But I'm also very lucky that the job I'm in now have been really supportive. They've been the most supportive job I have had with my disabilities. So I'm really thankful and lucky for that, because I know that's not always the case.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think from our discussions about the topic, we've noticed that there's this gap as well in terms of the support that you receive. So you mentioned your speech and language therapist. Was she private or was she via the NHS?
You mean Rachel or the lady who diagnosed me?
Rachel.
Rachel, she was private. Yeah, so we paid for the sessions, but it was really helpful, obviously talking about what we struggle with or what's happening as well. And she was. I do miss them because we have had a gap from it now, but I would love to be able to interact with more people, with like adults with that, maybe like in person as well or online, like just connecting. It does really help.
Yeah, the support group sounds incredible, and you'll have to let us know about the Facebook group as well, because we can always attach a link into the episode description. So it'd be great if we have any listeners that think they have DLD and want to know how to get in touch with that network that you've talked about. It'd be great.
I think communities are often like the best, can be such good support, because like what you were saying, that you suddenly weren't alone, and to just know that you're not the only one going through this, that actually there's others out there, and you can share tips, you can share what things have helped, what things have maybe not helped, and to actually just to know you're not on your own.
It does. It's difficult to put into words how much that means to us.
And the next question we had was really about your experience of DLD. So obviously we've learned a lot about DLD during childhood and the effect that it has, but we want to know more about how does it affect you actually as an adult?
Okay, as an adult, it's hard because I see it as I have always been like this, or this has always been, this is Shelbi, sort of like typical Shelbi sort of things. It is challenging. Obviously daily I get quite tired or fatigued with, like, if there's too much information. So for example, after work I like to have like an hour or like a calm sort of evening I need sort of like that switch off to like decompress it. It's hard to say how it affects me. So I struggle talking to new people, pronouncing words, or even when they're talking I'm like, what does that word mean? I don't know what that means. And then sometimes I'm not confident enough to ask them, what does that mean? Or like I don't want to seem that I'm stupid when I'm not. But I feel like I have learned a bit more since like the diagnosis. I have been a bit more comfortable in asking the people that I am a little bit more comfortable with, like, what does that mean? Like, can you explain that a bit more? I get things muddled up easily. My memory, short-term memory is bad. If there's socializing in like a big group is difficult to understand everyone, and then knowing when to talk, when not to talk, or they might already gone on the other subject but I was still on the last one or the one before, thinking in my head like, what can I add, what can I say, but then I can't get it out. What else? There's quite a lot.
That is, you've given us a lot. No, it's great.
It's quite frustrating, and obviously it does affect your mental health, like anxiety. sometimes if I'm really anxious and struggling, with my family, I rely on them to like speak up for me. Sometimes if it's on my own, I really struggle to speak up. But yeah.
That's so insightful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think, as you say, like it's different. We've spoken to lots of people on this podcast, and often with the people with aphasia, you know, it's an event that, like a stroke that just occurred, and then there was a change. Whereas actually, like you say, it's developmental. Like it's you've lived with it your whole life, you know. So it's difficult to describe because it's just you. It's your personality. It's part of you. It's your identity. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask as well, you mentioned earlier about how your work's been really supportive. I just wondered, did it help when you got the diagnosis, and were you told ways that you can be supported at work and what will help you, or was it stuff that you just figured out yourself over the years that you could then tell work?
It was a bit of both. I think my manager, I love my manager to pieces. She obviously sees the strengths that I have than I do, because I'm like, I'm not that as confident. And like I know that I have all the knowledge in my head, and I know that sometimes it doesn't sound like it to others, or I need to explain it, or like to show I do know my stuff. I think it was because of the role or the work that we do, because we do support like children with speech and language as well, but more language than speech. We can do a range of areas. I think that helped because obviously it's inclusive. I did already have some strategies that I already used, and then they always are asking what else can we do. I get obviously extra time. They explain stuff, shadowing.
Oh, that's great. And like you said, you're in such an inclusive work environment already, given the nature of the role. I bet that, like you said, that's been really helpful. So, no, great. Thank you. We'd also love to know about your work with Rattled. I think we talked about this when we'd spoken briefly before, but yeah, we'd love to know a bit more about that.
Obviously, I am a Rattled ambassador, so I tried my best to help raise awareness of DLD and sort of promote the DLD Awareness Day, doing my little videos or on TikTok, on Facebook, on social media. I try to do what I can, and then obviously with the books as well. My 3 books, I got 3 books now. So the one with DLD, I'm just like Nora May, about memory problems, and then my new book is about dyslexia, the A, D, C, B, see the dyslexia in me. So I tried to do that. That
excellent. Well, we'll make sure to include a link to your Instagram because we were looking to speak to someone with DLD who was diagnosed as an adult, and we found you through your amazing awareness work that you do.
And it's just amazing that you've also released 3 books. I mean, you should be so proud of that. Like, what an achievement.
I know, who would have thought that little old me when I was a child would be an author? No one would believe that. So yeah, it's still a bit of a pinch me, sort of, am I an author?
That's amazing. And we talked a little bit earlier about the sort of lack of support that there is for adults with DLD. So what do you think are the next steps for supporting adults with a DLD diagnosis?
We got this, I know that there is a lot of support, there's a lot of research happening for DLD. So I think it's more or less we need, obviously, it's important to have that level of awareness at the same level that the other neurodiversity conditions get. So then everyone is aware. So then hopefully that's that stepping stone of being able to receive the support, put it in place. So, okay, this is the pre-information about a diagnosis. You get your diagnosis. This is what happens afterwards, like a connection with all the information or all the different support groups or tips.
Yeah, I think what you said about raising awareness, and I think that increasing that knowledge so that DLD is something that people hear, somebody sees it on a sign, it's mentioned in a conversation, and actually that more and more people just then know what it is, as they would with autism or dyslexia or a stroke, that actually they hear DLD and they know what it is. I think raising awareness then is like the first step to the next following steps.
I was also thinking, obviously, I would love to have a support in mental health with people with DLD as well. So like the CBT is good, but it's sometimes not good for people with DLD because it's a lot of language. So having people, either training people within the mental health service, are saying, okay, this is what DLD people need and this is how you can support them.
That's great. That is so great. I hadn't even thought about the language, the language cognitive load of cognitive behavioural therapy, because it is, isn't it? The whole point is understanding your thought process, and it's such it requires so much language. I really hadn't thought
no, me neither. No.
Yeah, such a great next step.
Especially when because obviously we tend to keep everything inside, or like our thoughts, our feelings inside. So I have that difficulty of understanding that and then how to express it. So I used to, when I was really bad with my mental health, I used to have like an obsession type of just painting. I love painting. So I'm really big on I'm really interested in art therapy, and I would love to have like an art therapy for people with DLD as a connection, like all like painting everything out, and hopefully one day.
Thank you so much, Shelbi. It's honestly been so
interesting
speaking with you, and I've learnt so much.
Me too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you to Simone and Shelbi for their wonderful insights, and as always, we'll make sure to add in further links and resources in the episode description if you want to know more.
Thank you so much for listening. Nathalie and I have loved chatting to all our guests this year, and we hope you have found the episodes as valuable as we have.
It's honestly been such a privilege to host the podcast with you this year.
And you. So for the last time, it's bye from us, and we won't see you next time.
Bye.